First, I want to acknowledge the land that we are currently at, and thank you for receiving us. And also, just want to start by saying that I'm really grateful for being here, and also thank you to all the organizers for the FOSS4G for bringing me all the way here. Secondly, I also want to acknowledge this. English is not my first language, so mistakes will be made, and just bear with me if I forget any word. And if anybody here speaks Spanish, please, I will pick on you so you can help me translate in case I forget. Everybody cool with that? Great, here we go. So I'm gonna take you real quick through it's not Thursday, but I'm gonna take you to a throwback Wednesday. So you might be wondering how is it that someone from social comms ended up giving a keynote here at FOSS4G. So I wonder the same. And I'm gonna take you through this short trip down my small memory lane. And I wanna share my story so in hope that it sparks some curiosity to other people from other disciplines into becoming a map maker, into coming into open source communities, right? So this journey showed me a little bit on how to be a critical thinker when it comes to tech and the effects that tech has in many of the things in our lives, right? So how we experience the world through it, also how one can find a community of other think-alike people in using tech, and basically how we nerds find each other. And this is me finding think-alike nerds during FLISOL. I don't know if you know what FLISOL is, but it's the festival for open source installation in Latin America that happens every year, and it's community-led. And also Software Freedom Day back in 2009, so when we were young and fresh, right? And my background, as I said, is in engineering or computer science. It's in social comms. And that means that I've always been interested in human interaction and also how power is created, distributed, and how that affects the relations that we have within us as people and also with communities and spaces, right? So eventually that curiosity led me to technology, because the technology for me is really powerful, and what is more powerful than technology in the hands of our auntie saying good morning, blessings, stickers on the WhatsApp family group and asking us, when are we getting married, right? So I entered the techie side of the world, not because I wanted to code necessarily, but because I wanted to understand a little bit more how technology intersects and its core to building and strengthening relationships. And because it also sounded cooler to say that I use Ubuntu rather than using Windows. So I first entered the open source world through community activism, but I always thought to myself, why is it that I cannot find more people that look like me? And why is it that I need to kind of fit in with the boys? And that question still taunts me after more than 15 years in these spaces. So after many conversations with friends and colleagues, I understood that the challenges on representation and violence in tech communities. But I also learned that open source isn't just about the back end of things. I also learned it's about open participation, but also open belonging. So the years passed by, and I started making my way through digital rights communities and feminism. And I could see how data and technology shape interactions, representation, and ultimately, as I said before, power. And that power is embodied in all of our technologies. So according to Donna Haraway, a cyber feminist, challenges traditional boundaries. The cyber embraces a world where identities are fluid, tech power can be reconfigured, and feminist resistance emerges through connection and coalition across differences. So I went from a journalist to become a cyber feminist, and then a cyber feminist that makes maps. So this takes us to Geochicas, right? I started to make maps because of a research project that I was beginning back in Argentina when I was starting my PhD that required me to track some barometers that I wanted to deploy in a specific neighborhood. So that a friend of mine introduced me to the OpenStreetMap community in Argentina. I remember we were around maybe 80 people in the group at that point, and only 4 of us were women. And that's pretty much how it all started. There's a more spicy version of this that I'm not going to share with you here, but if you ask me Later on the cocktail, after a few drinks, I'll tell you the story. So it all started there. We met at the State of the Map Latin America in Brazil, 2016, and Geochicas was born. One thing that we all had in common at that point is that we all wanted not to just fit in, but we actually wanted to reshape the barriers that would allow us to fully participate in these communities and actually be our full selves as well. So for us, community survival. Geochicas, as I said, we started in 2016. It's almost 10 years now. We wanted to address the gender gap in the community of OpenStreetMap, ultimately also moving towards the Osteo community. So we decided that the pillar and ethos of the group needed to answer 3 questions. What and how the participation of women and underrepresented genders in the geospatial communities are formed, or like how is the participation of us happening? And if it's not happening, why? How our needs represented in the maps that we create and the agendas of our communities, and what roles do we play in decision-making spaces? And from there, we knew we had a long journey ahead. And for many people, when we think about open source, we usually think about like code, repositories, APIs, like data infrastructure, and so on. But behind every data set, we consider that behind every project, there's something less visible, less tangible, and maybe more fragile and more sensitive, which is the people who make it possible. And I'm talking about that invisible infrastructure, the one that connects us, the one that sustains us, and sometimes it even protects us, which is our communities. So in Geochicas, that's us. That was the first one at the beginning. We don't necessarily build software or tech, we build communities. We build care, and we do it through a collective and critical approach towards the mediation of technology intertwined with human interactions and relations. We understand that technology itself emerges in a political, cultural, situated context, and its effects are directly tied to that context. And it's our collective responsibility to make it as ethical as possible for all of our communities. Ochi Curiel, who's a Latin American feminist scholar, said, "The communal is fundamental to life. That is to say, it is not simply a geographic community, but a way of thinking ourselves in relation." So whether it's a data repository on GitHub or a community event or a Telegram group, what sustains us is connection. That's why Geochicas calls itself a collective and not a project. We are a living, rhizomatic network that sustains feminism, open and inclusive spaces. What you see here, this is the map of us. Wait, I don't know why I can't. There you go.
Is New Zealand on the map?
Let's see. Chiki. No, we don't have numbers here. So right now, after almost 10 years, we're more than 300 women across more than 32 different countries making maps and thinking how we can make our communities more equitable. So Geochicas itself, it's a feminist, anti-colonial, anti-racist, and trans-inclusive group. That means that all cis and transgender women are welcome, for those who don't understand that kind of terminology. So we make maps and we love our maps, but we think about our maps not from maps being tools or instruments, but for us, map making is actually a collective process. We see our maps as never ending because the world never ends to evolve. Inequities never stop to evolve either. So as long as inequities continue to show up in our lives and can be spatially tracked, we're going to continue doing what we do. I need to move the cursor here. There we go. Rob Kitchen here is a really great scholar. Follow him if you don't know him. He's amazing. Wrote that maps aren't fixed representations. They're living relationships. And the map does not represent the world or make the world itself. It is a co-constitutive production among inscription, the individual, the collective, and the world itself. The world and how it's represented is in constant state of becoming, and so are we. We're not the same as we were when we were kids. I mean, many of us might still be that, but we're not judging anyone, so it's fine. And for us, mapping as a collective and relational act takes us to feminism. And feminism is inherently collaborative. Data, emotion, space, and place all interact with each other, and they all affect each other. So that's why we understand mapping as a social and effective process, not just a technical one. Even though maps were created as control and colonialist devices, we can creatively make use of them in a completely different way. We can use them to save our rivers, our lands, and we can use them to save ourselves as well. So we think about how maps impact people's lives, and it could be positive, it could be negative, but nonetheless, we know that there's always an effect on the territories and the people that we work with. And that acknowledgement changes the paradigm of maps as being neutral, correct? So, don't mistake the rules with reality. If you don't know who Alok is a transgender, non-binary stand-up comedian. And I just recently saw them in Costa Rica, and it was amazing. And I got this quote from them: don't mistake the rules with reality. And we still encounter the idea that maps, code, data can still be neutral, but there's still, because I guess that there's still like something that I would like to call like the subjectivity deniers out there roaming in the wild. But we know better. We know that reality is shaped by the subjectivity of who produces these kind of maps, the codes that we use, and the technologies and the data. So don't mistake reality for a set of rules that are artificially created by a group of people that made them and tried to set them in stone. We are here with a chisel trying gently and carefully to break them all. Over the years, we realized something very profound, is that we weren't just mapping the world or representing mere just like everyday events on a map. We were maintaining a network of radical thinking, a network of care, of embodied emotions, and collective representation of our needs, challenges, and also of our accomplishments. So Harley here reminds us once again that maps are neutral. They reflect power, and we can expand this premise to data and to code, because these tiny units show us whose knowledge counts, whose perspective defines the world as well. So we, in Geochicas, we come from that awareness. If maps and data can reproduce inequality, invisibilize spaces and community, then maps and data can also challenge it, reshape it, and turn around the systematic oppressions. I want to show you a little bit of what we've done so far for the last 10 years. Again, as I said, we're more than 300 women, more than 30 countries, with active participation in different multi-stakeholder spaces, and more than 15 projects so far. All of this without a dime. Like, we're a volunteer community. We know we don't have money, so this is just from the mere will to do it. Our current projects right now are the Streets of Women that I'm going to show you in a bit, the Spatialized Feminist Memory, Geochicas Take, which is happening on Thursday, the Gender Diversity Survey on OpenStreetMap and OsGeo, and then other couple of projects that that are happening right now. For those who don't know this project, this is called the Streets of Women. It shows, if it loads, we'll see. It shows the different streets that are named after men or women, and if those streets that are named after women have an article on Wikipedia. So supposedly, I don't know why it's not loading. It should look like that. And it should be painted, but I don't know if it's the connection or if something happened, but you can see it here. We started this project back in 2018 for an International Women's Day, and these are all the different cities and countries that we have it. Funny enough, countries like Cuba, they have like the highest percentage of streets named after women, but they're all saints and virgins. I mean, it's so weird that it's not showing, but I don't know if it's something with the connection, so we're gonna move on to the next project. We've been mapping worldwide all the events that are happening for International Women's Day. We started working with the International Feminist, it's called like, I don't even know how to say it in English, La Internacional Feminista, which is like the Internacional Socialista, but for feminism. So we started mapping by making a call to action to the feminist community so they could share with us the different activities that they were hosting, and you can see them here. This is 2019, 2020, before pandemic hit us. Funny enough, this has helped us track the difference, like how authoritarian regimes across the world have been kind of making us unable to participate in this kind of movements. For example, in Nicaragua, before the riots in 2018, you could see like the women were able to go out in the streets and have a march or a protest. Then we see that we don't have that anymore. But on the positive side of things, we have seen that there are also many places in which women weren't able to do this. And now we're seeing a huge change and seeing more people being able to go out in the streets. And this is 2025, which is really cute, actually. And also I want to make a call to all of you in case in your countries, in your regions, if you know about anything happened for International Women's Day, send it over to us and we'll put it in the maps. This has also supported a lot of the feminist groups across the world to have like this living memory of also the art that they create for the posters and the invitations that they have. There's so many cute things that you can see here, like, I don't know, wait. That's not the cutest one, but there are many cute ones. I can share with you all later the links. And then that takes us to Geochicas Take. For us, it's really important, and with that, I really want to say thanks to the organizers of the FOSS4G for supporting us. And this is something that happens for every big conference in which Geochicas is invited. Usually the conference organizers support us in putting together this pre-event. This is a social and networking gathering. This is the 17th edition. We've done it across now 9 different countries and more than 800 attendees. We understand that a lot of women that come here is either the first time that they're presenting or coming to a technical conference, or they have been invited as part of a group that it's only like men-based, for example. So we provide and we try to give them a space in which they can get to know each other. And usually whenever that we're invited to a lot of the conferences, we're invited to talk specifically about what I'm talking about right now, which is like the gender issues and the gaps and so on and so on. So we usually never have the time to actually talk about the projects that we're working on. So this space provides us that. It gives us a space where we can just share the projects that we're working on and see if anybody else is working on something similar, and then we can all help each other and support each other. This is a little bit of the results from the gender survey on OpenStreetMap and OSGeo. We've done it 2 times now. The first one, 2018. These are the partial results from the one 2024, 2025. The first one we did in like 8 different languages. Cleaning that data afterwards was bad. So this last year, we decided to just have it in Spanish, English, French, and Portuguese, which are the languages that we manage. 280 people responded. Interestingly enough, but yet not shocking, the countries with the highest representation were European countries, and around 80% of the respondents self-identify as cisgender men. And this is interesting though, 68% of all the respondents, considering that it's 80% men, believe that there is not a balanced gender representation in OpenStreetMap and in the OSGeo community. If you're interested in more of this data, I can share it with you. These are just the partial results. And I also wanted to acknowledge that our communities are based on merit, right? So who's more likely to gain merit if they have more free time to volunteer in different projects? Usually the women. This is a symbolic and also a material barrier for women to participate in these kind of communities, and you can see it here on this one. It doesn't, you can actually see it that much, but it's the level of contribution in the community. And you can see that people who, for example, map every day mostly are men. And that says a lot because usually we are doing like caregivers work, we have to cook, we have to clean, we have to do extra work that usually men don't have to. And there's this person called Jane Tronto that back in 1993 reminded us that care and providing care is not just a private virtue, but actually a political practice. So that challenges, what we're trying to do here is challenge the hierarchies that are embedded in this kind of traditional gender roles, where us women are the ones that are usually like building the community or supporting the community, but not building the codes, right? And with that, I just want to invite you all. Next year is the 10th anniversary of Geochicas. We're celebrating in Mexico City. We're bringing it back to Latin America. Shout out to all the Geochicas, actually. So if you're interested, come talk to me. Let us know if you want to participate. We are more than happy to have you there. And with that, thank you. And just want to give you just like two last thoughts is that be brave and critical and just question everything that we do. And second, take care, not only of yourselves, but others too, because by taking care of me, I can take care of you, and we can all take care of each other. And as we maintain our codes, our repos, let's maintain our communities and our connections and our relations, because again, community is survival, especially in these kind of times. And thank you for listening, thank you for having me, and thank you, amazing FOSS4G Team 2025, for bringing me here. If you want to talk about feminist killjoy like me, I'm gonna be around, and for all of those who are, I don't know if, is it the Geochicas Take already full? No, I think it's open. Geochicas Take is happening on Thursday at Rocket Man at 6 p.m., sorry. We're not drinking at 6 a.m., people. At 6 p.m., from 6 to 7, it's only women. And when I say women, again, I say cisgender and transgender women. And after that, the rest of you all are welcome to join. There is a space next to the bar that we're gonna be holding the Geochicas Take that is called, I don't know where Cami is and she knows the name, but it's literally next door. So you can all hang out there. And we're gonna have drinks, we're gonna have canapes, snacks, and join us. Thank you.